Welcome to StarCraft 2 Battle Report.
Hey everyone, I'm Dustin Browder. I'm the lead designer on StarCraft 2.
And I'm Robert Simpson, an esports team member. And today we have Matt Cooper playing as the Red Protoss and David Kim playing as the Blue Terran on Kulos Ravine.
This is an alpha version of StarCraft 2, but there's a lot of new units and a lot of new abilities these players can employ against one another. Let's go to the game.
Here is Matt Cooper in the lower right hand of the map playing as the Red Protoss, and all the way across the map, across this huge battlefield, is David Kim playing as the Blue Terran.
This is on Kulos Ravine. This is a new map for our alpha version of StarCraft 2. You can see there's a very narrow choke point allowing access into your base, and you've got this very easily defended expansion up here where you could build another town and try to gather more resources. This area is protected by these rocks. If you destroy these rocks, you can get access to this area. So you see, in order even to get up to that area, you need to destroy the rocks inside your own base. We've also got all the way across the map here a regular expansion for each player. This will allow each player to build additional resources if they want to, but this one's much more exposed. It's easier to get to, but it's easier to get to for the enemy as well. And in the middle of the map, we've got these Xel'Naga watchtowers, which allow players to see a huge area around them if they capture the towers. These will be critical during the battle, as these towers are right between both players, and capturing these towers will give both players a lot of information about what's going on across the map. And of course, being a good StarCraft 2 map, these areas are mirrored. It is balanced. You can see there is a similar position here next to the Protoss player as there was next to the Terran player. And finally, we've got these high yield expansions here. This is a place where you get access to high yield minerals. You collect additional resources for controlling that area, and both players would be highly incentivized over the course of the game to try to get control of those areas. But as with your expansions, they're much harder to defend.
And so now on production, we can see both the players trying to keep up with the resources, pumping out another probe in SCV. We do see both the gateway and the barracks being built simultaneously. The Protoss and Terran player already have down at least one farm. We do see a probe and a supply depot out on the battlefield. Now that probe is scouting out just a little earlier than that SCV. They're likely going to see each other's scouts and be able to guess, use their intuition to find out where the other player is. We do see the Protoss player throw down an assimilator, so we're probably going to see him going for a cybernetics core and likely warp gates.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very standard approach for the Protoss these days in the alpha version of StarCraft 2. And you can see the Terran player has, of course, spotted the probe. He sees what's going on and he's moving away. Both players are trying to find out where the other player is located. This is very important in StarCraft 2, as it was in the original StarCraft. The more information you have, the better off you're going to be over the course of a battle.
And back in Matt Cooper's base, we do see that assimilator is absolutely finished, and he's already mining from it with a total of 3 probes. So he's trying to get the most that he can out of that assimilator. Now we see that gateway hasn't started producing anything yet. He was saving up his minerals so that he can throw down that cybernetics core.
He's relying on the size of the map here to protect himself. He's not building any ground troops because he knows it's a long distance from his base to the enemy base. So he's going to rely on that and hope the enemy doesn't get here anytime soon, allowing him to tech up a little bit more quickly.
And the probe is able to make it over into the Terran base. We do have that Marine laying down a ton of pressure on him, and he's going to pull back that probe. Is it going to be able to regenerate its shields? I'm not sure if it's going to survive. Is the Marine going to be able to catch him? Oh, and it's looking like the Protoss player is moving him around. He's able to get just enough shields back to take another couple of attacks from that Marine, and he's able to outrun him and make his way into the Terran base. This is a big deal.
What a great move by the Protoss player. He's inside. He's going to get to see what he needs to see right now. He wants to know what's going on inside this Terran base, and he's going to get his way. He's very cleverly maneuvered around. He's playing keep away from that Marine, regenerating his shields. Shields generate much more quickly in StarCraft 2 than they did the original StarCraft, and you can see that probe. Oh, its shields are almost down. It's only got a few hit points left. It is running away from that Marine. It's a little bit faster, and it looks like, unbelievably, that probe is going to successfully dodge that Marine, scouted that entire Terran base, and get away all at the same time.
Now, the Terran player, on the other hand, was able to safely get his SCV into the Protoss player's base and scout around as much as he can, and now he's pulling out before too many units get out there. We do see that the Terran player is going for Marauders, which is pretty bad news for the Protoss player at this point, because he did just build the Stalker.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Stalker is a great... Oh, and it looks like that probe almost got caught again by the SCV, but it does manage to get away, and here comes the Stalker. Now, the Stalker is a very dangerous Protoss grounding. It can shoot ground and air, and of course it has an ability to blink, which allows it to teleport anywhere it wishes to go within a short distance. Now, the absolute perfect counter for this unit is the Terran Marauder. It's a heavy ground infantry unit that fires concussion missiles, does a lot of damage to armored units like the Stalker, and it's the perfect choice to deal with this mobile Protoss threat.
Is that SCV going to go? Yes, the final shot. We've got a Marauder engaging that Stalker. Both the units volleying at each other at the exact same times. We see lots of damage getting laid down. Who's going to win? Is it going to be the Marauder or the Stalker? Oh, and the Marauder is just able to get off that last shot right before the Stalker was able to kill him.
Small gain for the Terrans, but still a gain nonetheless, as he takes down that stalker that was threatening his base. And we see the Terran player here is actually planning on expanding. He's got a command center in production down at the very bottom of the screen. He's probably going to fly that up to that plateau just south of his base, where he will be able to harvest safely. And the Protoss player may be unaware of it for quite some time, unless he gets some flyers out to have a look at what's going on. Meanwhile, back in the Protoss base, because there's a lot of teching going on, a lot of resources being laid down here. Looks like he's got some more gateways on the way. He's got another simulator going down, and he's got a Twilight Council, which will allow him to build Immortals, it'll allow him to detect Dark Templars. It's really a gateway for a lot of choices for the Protoss. It'll allow him to build Charge on his Zealots, allow him to move much more quickly. A lot of choices coming out of that building, so we're going to see what the Protoss decides to do once he gets that tech in play.
And so here David Kim has taken advantage of his ability to lift off and load a few SCVs into that command center and land them right on that high ground expansion. Oh, and the Protoss player looks like has built a proxy pylon, as we've come to call it, in this StarCraft 2 alpha build, where you actually build a pylon closer to a player's base so that you can warp units in much closer so that they can cover lots of ground very quickly.
This is the only reason to put that pylon down right there, is so he can warp in units right there in the middle of the battlefield. This will significantly cut off the amount of time it takes the Protoss player to move across the battlefield. And we had the tech console up there just a second ago, and we saw that the Protoss player was researching Charge. This will allow his Zealots to move much more quickly, will allow him to catch, hunt down, and destroy those Marauders. And looking at the resourcing, we see both players are pretty even in their resourcing, so it looks like it's still a very, very close game. And there's the proxy pylon in operation. You can see all those forces just warped in there out of nowhere. Looks like the Marauders don't want to fight them quite yet. They're going to back up, hope not to be seen, but they are seen. Now the Stalkers are going to take some damage here from the Marauders, but it looks like the Terran player is really taking a beating. And oh wow, he's pulled one Stalker back, drawing the Marauders' fire, drawing it away from the stack, and the Protoss player wins the battle handily.
What an excellent move by the Protoss player. It's really all about controlling units. Getting the most out of the units at this high level of play is what's incredibly important. Now, back at the Terran base, the Protoss is trying to make a push in there. He does see a couple Marauders out. Oh, he thinks that he can take that army, but what's this? Two more Marauders show out from behind the Terran's base, and the Protoss army is absolutely overwhelmed. We're going to see those Stalkers just get mauled.
Yeah, he would love to escape at this point, but those concussion missiles do slow down units that are hit by them for a short time. It really means that there really was no hope of escape there. All the Protoss could really hope to do at that point was do as much damage as they could before they were taken down. And here is the Protoss response to the Marauder. He's got a bunch of Zealots in play. He's going to warp in a bunch more. These guys are extremely dangerous against the Marauder. The concussion missiles don't do nearly as much damage against lightly armored targets like the Zealot, and it looks like the Zealots might be able to chase down and kill these Marauders.
Ooh, and we're going to see those Marauders are hot on the tail of all those Zealots. Whoa, and it's looking like those 6 Zealots are feeling extremely zealous and are going to move right back in there and try and chase down all those Marauders. We got 3 more Zealots getting warped into play, and here they go. They're chasing down those 3 Marauders, only 3 remaining. Wow, and Charge is finished researching. They are going to be able to chase down the Marauders, no problem.
Yeah, there's nowhere to run now, and the Marauders know it. Once that Charge comes online, you can see those blurs by the Zealots as they move so quickly. There's no escape for the Marauders now. They're just running for their lives, trying to escape inside the Terran base, preserve this force as long as he possibly can. And the Zealots are loose. They're loose inside the Terran base, and they're just trashing the place. They're going immediately for the SCVs, and you can see they're just tearing the place apart, killing as many SCVs as they can. The SCVs are turning, fighting back, desperately trying to stem the loss of life, trying to kill as many Zealots as they can. Oh my god, he's taking just a terrible beating in his economy. The Zealots are just cutting into those SCVs. Some Zealots are going down, but the SCVs are taking even worse damage. He's down to 25 SCVs, while the Protoss have 33 still in play by the time those Zealots leave the base.
So now, the Protoss player probably thinks that he has this huge one up, but little does he know that the Terran player actually has that high ground expansion where he's able to still safely gather all the minerals he wants.
Yeah, absolutely. The Protoss player's got a feeling really confident right now. He just did a terrible amount of damage to his economy. You can see as we're panning across the map there, he was expanding. It looks like the Protoss player's got everything going his way. What he doesn't know, of course, is the Terran does have another town. He has another base, and he's making good use of it. And the Zealots are back inside. They've bypassed that bunker, and they're going directly for the SCVs, trying to kill as many as they possibly can. Some of those SCVs are no doubt wounded from the previous battle. The Marines are trying to fight back. The SCVs are trying to get away, but the Zealots are just too tough. They're just trashing them and taking them down, and the Marines are running back for the cover of that bunker if they can only get to it.
Ooh, but the Zealots are trying to chase it down, and the Marauders finish just in time and are able to take down those Zealots. I have to say, I love charge.
Yeah, it's such a great ability for the Zealot. It really makes them very effective in the mid-game. When the unit is starting to become less and less effective, suddenly charge can come online and give whole new life to the unit. Now, it looks like the Protoss are having a look around here. He's scouting around the map, making sure that there's no hidden expansions. Of course, he doesn't know about the expansion on the high ground. He might be able to guess that the Terran had done such a thing, but he doesn't know for sure. Oh my goodness, looks like the Terrans surviving of that battle are coming out to fight. They're moving out to engage this position. He's got a bunch of Zealots that he's just warped in, and he's engaging that tough Marauder force. The Marauders are having a lot of trouble. They're backing up. They're focus firing on the Zealots, trying to slow them down, trying to buy themselves some time, trying to hope they can wear down those Zealots with repeated use of their concussion missiles.
Ooh, and you have them turning around just trying to get off one shot and continue running away. They're trying to kite that Zealot away as fast as they can. Are they going to be able to take down that probe? Those two Marauders. We've got a Zealot and a probe in hot pursuit of those two Marauders, and they are able to take down both of them. Oh, but 3 more Zealots come into play, and those Marauders are not going to see the light of another day.
Yeah, they're absolutely toast. So he managed to eke out a little bit of a victory there, but it wasn't enough. The warp in really helped the Protoss player get back into the game, make sure he got some forces down on the battlefield, and maintain control of the middle of the map. It's very important for the Protoss player right now to maintain control of that middle area so he can keep up the pressure on the Terran base.
That's right. Pressure is extremely important in StarCraft 2 because if you leave anyone alone for a given amount of time, you can get steamrolled.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it looks like the Protoss player has managed to expand here. He is going to bring up some additional probes from his other main base, and he's going to try to use that base to get some more resources. He's also got a robotics facility up and running, too, actually, as a matter of fact. He's got a Colossus on the way. He's built the support facility for the Colossus, and it's going to be coming out. This is a very dangerous unit. It can be upgraded to have siege range. It can move up and down cliffs. It's got a powerful area effect beam. It's not a great weapon against the Marauders, which is kind of a shame because there's a lot of Terran Marauders on the map.
If we did see a higher number of Colossus working together in unison, we could absolutely see those Marauders get threatened huge. But, I mean, he's not really planning on killing the army. Right now, all that this Protoss player wants to use those Colossus for, likely, is to take out that expansion now that he's found it with his Observer.
He's just seen it with that Observer. This is a flying cloaked unit for the Protoss that allows him to fly around and see what's going on, detect units, and you can see that he's got it up there, up that cliff. He's seen what's going on. He sees the expansion, and now he knows that what he thought was a winning game is not going the way he was hoping it would, and so now he's got to move to engage that expansion. And he's bringing over some Zealots. No doubt he'll bring over his Colossus and some additional forces and try to break through those rocks. Of course, the Terran player has control of that watchtower, so he can see what's going on. The Terran player is fully aware of what's happening. He sees those rocks under attack. Once those rocks go down, the Zealots will be into the Terran base, and the Terrans are trying to break through their own set of rocks. He needs to get up there to protect his base. Who will break their rocks first is the real question right now, and the Colossus is in. It's attacking the Terran base. It's driving off of those SCVs. SCVs are running for their lives while the Colossus is stalking around, trying to do as much damage as he possibly can. He's running as close to those Marauders as he can, and the Colossus is a little too close to that Terran army. It's trying to get off some shots. It's going to get off a few shots, and then it's dropped by those tough Marauders.
Ooh, and it's looking like Matt Cooper was just a little bit distracted, possibly by seeing all of these Hellions run past his proxy pylon in the center of his map. We can see those Hellions laying down some damage, trying to take out as many of the probes as they possibly can. We do see a Stalker getting warped into play, going to lay down some pressure. The Hellions are going to try to move around over towards the natural. Oh, and that Colossus there. Those Hellions do not stand a chance.
Yeah, those Hellions are going down to the Colossus and the Stalker. Back into the Terran base. The Zealots are in among the SCVs once again, doing as much damage as they can to the Terran economy, just tearing away. But that's a lot of Marauders. That's a lot of Stalkers in the way, and the SCVs are fighting back as well. You can see one of the Stalkers is brought down by combined SCV and Marauder fire, and the few Protoss survivors from that failed assault will limp away to safety. The Observer remaining overhead to watch what goes on inside the Terran base.
So fortunately enough for the Protoss player, he does still have that proxy pylon up there, but unbeknownst to him, on the production menu, we can see that the Terran player is researching Cloak, which is going to be devastating versus anything on the Protoss force because he doesn't have cannons placed around his bases.
Absolutely, and so the Terrans are researching Cloak for their Banshees. The Banshee is a very deadly air-to-ground gunship. They can do a lot of damage to the Colossus, a lot of damage to a lot of other units. He really needs more observers in the air if he's going to spot those cloaked Banshees, and it looks like the Terrans are feeling like they can make a push here. He's bringing in his Hellions, he's bringing his Marauders, his Marines. This is a small but deadly Protoss force, but he is backing up, trying to buy time for his units. It looks like some of his Zealots have gotten stuck behind the battle lines there. Oh, the Colossus goes down to mass Marauder fire, and the Terran force is doing terrible damage, just trashing that Protoss position, tearing up his Stalkers, tearing up his Zealots, and there we go. Only 2 Stalkers left. Both go down simultaneously to some great micro by the Terran player, and it looks like that proxy pylon, which has been so great for the Protoss player throughout the game, is finally going to go down.
That's right. And over here we do see a couple Stalkers. They're looking to pressure that the Terran high ground expansion because they know that your enemy getting free minerals is never a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's going to move in here and see what he can do, but there is a Banshee in play. The Stalkers are pretty strong against the Banshee, but the Banshee gets a couple of free shots in before the Stalkers move in, and you can see it's just not going that well for him. He really needs to micro that Stalker away, but he fails. The Banshee does survive, will no doubt be repaired. Meanwhile, out on the rest of the map, it looks like there's another small battle going on. The Colossus have come up. They've destroyed, along with their Zealot buddies, they've destroyed what remained of that Terran strike force, and the Terrans in the middle of the board are once again on the run. You can see the Zealots using their charge to hunt down and kill those Marauders.
Now, on the unit overlay, it's clear that this is not all that remains of the Terran army. There is a large force being created and amassing up in the Terran base. We can see that little blob of blue just moving across the map, and here they come. They're going to be chasing down those Zealots. The Zealots stand no chance against the number of Hellions that large.
Yeah, those Hellions have a very powerful flamethrower that can really do a lot of damage to light targets like those Zealots. You can see the Terran army is massing up there for a push. This is a pretty decent sized force for the Protoss, but you can see what's going on with the Protoss, why their force is so small. They've been spending a lot of their resources on expanding over here to this high yield area, building another base so you can collect some additional resources. This is very, very important for the Protoss player to stay in the game, to keep building additional resources, to keep his economy going. And here come the Banshees on the loose, flying around the map, looking to cause some trouble, and it looks like there's a single SCV from the Terrans scouting around, trying to make sure that the Protoss player is not expanding.
That's right. We have certainly seen David Kim's Banshees wreak havoc on Matt's expansions before, and here we go again. We're going to see these Banshees just getting controlled, trying to take out probes one by one. I mean, one attack from each of these Banshees on any of those probes, and they go down very quickly. We do see a Stalker brought into play, going to try to pressure those Banshees, but the Banshees are, of course, going to move away because they don't want it to get killed.
Yeah, absolutely. He wants to keep harassing them. He doesn't even take a lot of damage on them because he wants to keep the pressure up, and he knows there'll be more Stalkers warping in where those came from. And here comes this scout. This is incredibly important for the Terran player. He's going to spot this expansion now. There were a couple of cannons being built, but they're not up fast enough, and the SCV gets right inside. He's going to get a good look at that base, and here comes the Terran player. He wants to push now. He's moving in, trying to engage those Colossus, and it looks like he's managed to do a lot of damage to those units. Oh my god, one of the Colossus is taking just a beating from those Banshees. The Hellions are backing up under that withering fire, but still the Banshees are doing their damage. Oh, one of the Colossus goes down to the cloaked Banshees, and the last remaining Colossus is going to limp away, try to find some cover under the guns of his friendly Stalkers there, and looks like the cloak is still in play. There's no Observer nearby, and here comes the Observer. The Observer's moved in. Now the Banshees can be seen, and one is destroyed.
Ooh, what a good attack by the Terran player. Otto, and now that the Terran player is able to see this Protoss expansion, he's going to be moving over there with this large amount of Marauders. That is 12 Marauders, and an additional 4 Hellions are just absolutely going to be able to tear those cannons apart. There was a unit trying to be warped in, but he focused it during the 5 seconds that it was getting warped in and killed them before it was able to hatch.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like the Stalker's going to come in and try to bail the situation out, but that's way too many Marauders for that Stalker. He hasn't got a lot of hope of dealing with the situation. Still no real practical way to deal with that many Banshees. He has dropped a number of them, but it looks like he has lost all of the Stalkers, and now the Colossus is trying to get to a position where it can fire at the Marauders, but it's just taking a pounding from those Banshees, and this base is going down. There goes the Nexus. That's just too many Marauders doing tons and tons of damage, especially to buildings, just tearing up the place while the Protoss desperately scramble to stay in this game.
Now, meanwhile, the Terran is just going to build another expansion. He wants to keep this one up, so he's just going to build another command center and take it on over to his natural expansion.
Yeah, and it looks like here come the Banshees in once again. Now, there's not actually a lot going on back here. Most of the probes have already left. They've moved off to other areas to resource. So those Banshees are going to do some damage, but not a lot. Meanwhile, at the front of the Protoss base, the Terrans are pressing in. The Protoss don't have a lot on the field. You can see they're not producing almost anything. There's only 3 Zealots being warped in right now compared to the large number of forces being created by the Terrans. And here come the workers moving out, trying to engage these Marauders. He's got to drive these Marauders away. Here comes some Zealots tearing away at the Marauders, and the probes are moving in, fighting off as well. The Marauders are backing up, firing a shot, backing up, firing a shot, trying to kite these units away, trying to get as much damage as they can get in before they're brought down.
They just need to leave this force as beating as they possibly can, because right now David Kim is just trying to maintain the pressure while he continues production. We can see his resources are doing amazing. I mean, right now Matt Cooper's falling behind because he's using all of his probes to try and harass that the Marauder force.
And there go the probes back to production. Not very many left. It looks like he's got a couple of Zealots in play. He's very carefully trying to battle out against these Marauders. I don't think the Zealot's going to survive. It's going to be a very close battle between these two, and the Zealot wins narrowly with 17 hit points remaining. The Zealot is the victor. A very small victory. victory for a very, very troubled Protoss player.
Wow, and David Kim is actually doing even better than we may have thought. He does have another expansion down in the bottom left of his base and has this huge, overwhelming force moving across the center of the map to seal the deal.
Yeah, and here is the trouble coming in for the Terran player, a huge force of Hellions and Marauders. There's really nothing on the ground that can stand up to this. He needs some air forces to deal with it, but he doesn't have them, and here comes the last of the Protoss defenders, desperately trying to stem the loss of life. He rushes the workers in, but those Hellions are the perfect counter. They tear through those workers and cut them all to pieces. This has really got to be the end of the game for the Protoss player. He's in a lot of trouble here. He's lost, and there's the GG. Matt Cooper conceding the game. Good game, he says, to David Kim.
So we just saw David Kim get in there with those Marauders and those Banshees and ultimately push Matt Cooper into a corner he just couldn't get out of.
Yeah, it was really, really tough on Matt. He really had some options to get out of that situation. He could have gone to the air. He could have gone with Phoenix. He could have gone with Warp Rays, but he just couldn't manage it in time, and he ultimately was overrun. You can see StarCraft 2 is such a challenging game for play. These players did a really great job at showing us what a very competitive match can look like.
Yeah, what a great game. Thanks for joining us in this StarCraft 2 Battle Report.